Welcome into the Thunder basketball universe. We are back in Oklahoma City after spending 4 days on the road in Dallas. Not far away, but boy, does it feel good to be back in Oklahoma City. And I think it was this very moment right before we started the podcast where I actually took a deep breath for the first time in the last 24 hours. That game in Dallas, Game 4, the Thunder down to the wire, trailed for about, 42 minutes of that game, and really just gutted out a tough, hard-earned victory on the road in Game 4, defeating the Dallas Mavericks 100-96. So now the Thunder returns back to Oklahoma City with this series all knotted up 2-2. Gallo, how are you feeling?
I think, like you, I finally got my nerves at a decent place. This series has just been so electric, and this is what playoff basketball is all about.
Yeah.
And the exhilarating nature of these games, the tension, the fact that this Thunder team trailed for nearly 42 minutes of a 48-minute game and still found a way to win. Absolutely remarkable. And I know we're going to dig into it a little bit more, but these are the moments that are going to stick with you, and you're going to remember. Be sure to embrace this type of situation. No matter what happens from here on out, this Thunder team, one of the youngest in the league, goes into a hostile environment against a veteran team, a team built, kind of for the short term, and goes in there and wins a just brutally hard Game 4 that really they had no business winning, but through sheer will, they get it done.
I love what Coach Dagnall said. He said, basically, we'd much rather be in this situation. Looking back to last season and the season before, he was like, last year I was in Chicago at the draft combine. I would much rather be down 2-1 against the Dallas Mavericks, really scrapping and fighting and clawing for a victory, than at the draft combine. And that's exactly where the Thunder were. And they gutted out an incredible game. Me and Royce did the post-game show, and I'm pretty sure my mic was shaking the entire time. My nerves were just fried at that point. But there were so many great moments in that game, really so many great moments over those 2 games in Dallas. The Thunder dropped that first game, Game 3 in Dallas, and then won Game 4. So we had a couple of things that made us look over that stretch. Nick, I don't know if you mind, but I want to go first on this one.
Please, go for it.
Because it's not basketball related.
Sure.
So I want to just kind of get it out of the way. After 2 games really, in Dallas, in enemy territory, it was getting kind of, after being in Paycom Center and experiencing, I think you know where I'm going with this, after experiencing just the love and the energy from the Paycom Center crowd and going to Dallas and not hearing the barks, not hearing the Thunder chants, being, quiet when the Thunder made a basket. There were some Thunder fans there, but obviously a ton more Mavericks fans. It was so nice to land at Will Rogers World Airport, get off that plane, and just be greeted by a sea of Thunder fans right behind the fence at the airport, cheering on their Thunder team as they made their way to the gate. And I'm thinking in my head, this is awesome. But what's even more awesome is this is a Monday night.
Yeah.
Kids have school the next day. People have work the next day. This isn't a holiday. And we landed at sometime around 1:45, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And these folks had been out there for at least an hour, yelling, hollering, cheering, and ready for when these guys landed.
Yeah, so I think somebody had a bullhorn. There was music
there
playing.
Was music, definitely.
I think there were some shirtless men out there doing God knows what. It was quite the scene. And, all just in great fun and celebration of what these Thunder players did. And, the remarkable thing, there would have been a crowd there last night, even if the Thunder had lost that game.
True.
And in true Oklahoma fashion, there's sort of that standard that these fans have set for the players in these postseason moments. And to have some of these opportunities for these guys to experience this, they did at the end of the first round. But I think we're going to continue to see it ratcheted up.
It just made me smile so big. And it was just a nice breath of fresh air after being in enemy territory for 2 games. Nice to get some cheers and love for the Thunder. Well-deserved as well. All right, Nick, what made you look over the course of these 2 games?
Well, we're talking about experiences. And for so many of these Thunder players, this is brand new. And, being in this playoffs together, going through some of these wars together, it's brand new. And for 2 guys, this whole thing, this whole year
Everything.
is new to them. And it's Chet Holmgren and Kaysen Wallace, two rookies who, if you look at game 4, and we're going to dig into, some of the guys that, did things late, Shea, of course, but these two rookies made some massive plays for this team in crunch time situations. Kaysen Wallace with a block on a Kyrie Irving 3-pointer, a couple of 3-pointers of his own for the Thunder, and just some lockdown defense to help hold Irving to an extremely low point total. He and Doncic combined for only 27 points in game 4. And then Chet Holmgren on the other end, 18 points on 9 shots, another 9 rebounds that were just absolutely massive. Some of the ones that he grabbed through in traffic, where he's getting bumped around and knocked over. I mean, so much physicality and tenacity from Chet. And so to see those two guys rise to the occasion, including Chet's go-ahead 3 late, that is so encouraging to see if you're a Thunder fan, because you realize, hey, we're just at the front door here of what's going to happen in Oklahoma City potentially.
There are a couple of things that come to mind. The first word is fearless when I think of Chet and Kaysen and their performances in the playoffs, and particularly in this game for Chet, because the Thunder got out to a really ice-cold shooting start from behind the 3-point line. 0 for 6 in the first quarter. They only finished with 7 threes, and the majority of those threes came in the fourth quarter. And for Chet to just confidently step into that 3-point shot to give the Thunder its first lead since the first quarter. Massive moment for Chet Holmgren. And then for rookie, Kaysen Wallace, the man hadn't taken a shot in the first 2.5 quarters of this game. It wasn't until that 3-pointer in the kind of the middle/end of the third quarter, kind of towards the end of the third quarter, he knocks down that 3. It was his first shot of the entire game. Makes it. Cuts the lead to, I think, like 3 or 4, something like that. Hits another one. He was 2 for 2. That's all he needed offensively. That's it. And there were 2 massive threes, massive shots. And Kaysen, just so unflappable, just so stoic, even-keeled. And we've seen this from Kaysen all season long. We've seen it from Chet, too.
Yeah.
But I wanted to focus on Kaysen because you add in the context of the playoffs. You add in the context of you're down 2-1. You add in the context of you're at home playing in front of friends and family. Kaysen is from Hamilton Park, Texas, which is right outside of Dallas. And he just delivered, just stepped up, just blocked everything out and played Kaysen Wallace basketball. And I thought that was so indicative of the kind of guy that Kaysen is. That's just who he is. He's just business as usual, super professional, at 20 years old.
Yeah.
So impressive.
And knows who he is. I mean, Shea was joking after the game. The guy never does anything wrong out there on the court. And today at practice, we talked to Kenrich Williams, and Kenrich was saying, like, yeah, man, he does everything just the way he does it. He walks slow around the practice facility. He's got the same look on his face and just so chill. And, Mark and Sam Presti have just talked about the family that Kaysen comes from and what incredible, people that they are, and just how it's so clear that Kaysen is a product of his parents and his family. And so it's just so cool to see these guys getting some of these opportunities and moments and coming through, as you're saying. I mean, for a rookie to only get 2 shots in a game and for both of them to go down, there are longtime NBA veterans who don't have that ability to train themselves to be able to be in a game completely from a mental standpoint and poised enough to be able to only take 2 shots in a game and make them both. That's sensational.
I love what Coach Dagnall said about Kaysen. It was just kind of like an indicator of who he is. He was asked about, Kaysen being from Dallas and what this is like for him. And Mark was like, yeah, I know he's super excited to be here, but he has the same face that he has every single day. You wouldn't know by looking at him. He's just so straight-faced, just so just stoic and consistent.
When you do get Kaysen to smile, though, it's so sweet.
It is.
He has a very sweet smile. So
it's like a big deal when you get Kaysen to smile. All right, there's so many different things that we have to break down from these last couple of games. Let's start with game 3.
Yeah.
Because you're going to look at game 4 and you're going to see that the Thunder won. But these were kind of similar games. Very, very similar games. Game 3, the Thunder fell to the Mavericks 105-101. Another super low scoring game. The Thunder, they did have shots throughout the game to just try to take a lead, try to get over the hump, but just didn't have enough in that game. But it was the defense that kept them in it. They were never fully out of reach. Right. They were never, out of arm's reach from the Dallas Mavericks. And it was their defense that really allowed them just to kind of hang around to give themselves an opportunity.
Yeah, the Thunder's done an amazing job on the two primary playmakers for Dallas, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. You cannot take that for granted moving forward in this series, starting with Game 5. But to be able to keep those guys in check gave the Thunder a chance to win on the road twice. In Game 3, the Thunder didn't capitalize on Dallas's mistakes the same way that they were able to capitalize them in the second half in Game 4. And that ultimately is a lot of times what playoff basketball comes down to, is which team is able to convert on the other end when they get a stop on one end. And that push and pull is one of the most dramatic part of this whole thing. Somebody gets a stop. The Thunder at one point, is stringing 4, 5, 6 stops together in a row. And in Game 3, maybe they were only coming away with 2 or 4 points. In Game 4, they were coming away with more like 6 or 8 during a stretch like that.
And Dallas, great defense by them as well, because they're doing everything. I mean, this is the point of the playoffs, right? You kind of lose sight of the fact that the other team is spending all of their time game planning against your strengths as a team. And so they're really packing the paint. They're trying to take away the rim. And so for the Thunder, it's all about adapting, try to find different ways to do that. And these have just been low scoring games. Now, you flip the script, and Coach Dagnall said after Game 3 that we had great defense. There were bright spots in that game, but we just did not play our best basketball. None of our guys really threw their fast pitch tonight, which is kind of encouraging because you play awesome defense, you don't have your fast pitch, and you only lose by 4. That is a really good indication for the Thunder. And so you turn around, 48 hours later, you're playing in Game 4. And the script is kind of unfolding in a very similar tone. Super low scoring. The Thunder get out to a low scoring start, not really knocking things down from behind the 3-point line.
1 of 9 to start, I believe, or maybe even worse. Yeah,
it was really, really just ice cold for OKC. And I remember there was probably like a 3-minute stretch where it just felt like Dallas went on a massive run. It felt like I hadn't looked up at the scoreboard. I was busy looking down at the court, and I'm expecting to look up and see the Thunder down like 20. That's how it felt in my brain. And I look up and they're down 9.
They just kept it close. Kept it close enough. We've talked all year about just keeping the scoreboard moving. One of the ways that the Thunder was really able to do that was in the second quarter. They got to the free throw line a ton. Yeah. Remember, they started that quarter 9 for 9. You and I were sitting next to each other and we're like pointing that out. And then the third quarter is when things really flipped, and the Thunder again leaned into the defense, held Dallas to just 15 points in that third quarter, only scored 22. And a lot of times when you're only scoring 22 points in a quarter, it's so hard to keep up the defensive energy and mojo, but the Thunder just did it possession after possession, and that kept them around long enough for the shot making to finally come around in the fourth quarter. It was, an explosion by the terms of what this series has dictated. 35 points for the Thunder in the fourth quarter.
The Thunder only scored 22 in the third.
Yeah.
But look at the difference. The difference. They were plus 7 in the third. They were down 11 going into halftime. So that means going into the fourth quarter, they were only down 4.
Right.
Only down 4. And this is what Coach Dagnall talks about all the time, just stacking possessions, sticking with it. And one thing we'll get to in a little bit, the trust and the endurance, because all of those things played a massive factor in Thunder being able to overcome the hump here in the fourth quarter. But we got to talk about the explosion that we saw in the fourth, because the defense was still completely on point, things that we've seen all game long, these last couple of games for the Thunder. But then the shots started falling, and that's what allowed the Thunder suddenly, oh my goodness, this is a tie game. Oh my goodness, the Thunder's up 3. Oh my goodness, the Thunder's up 5. It's just there was so much energy starting to be built in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and Shea was the ringleader of that. He had 22 of his 34 points in that second half. 10 of them came in the fourth quarter. And he did all of his work from the mid-range. I mean, if you look at the shot chart, every single one of his made shots came from inside the arc, but outside of the paint.
That's what makes him great.
Area.
That's what makes him great. If that's what they're giving him, he's like, all right, this is how I will beat you.
And so the shot making impeccable. The one that I think will be infamous as we look back on the series, regardless of how it turns out, is the one from behind the backboard where he drives. He's on that left side against Tim Hardaway Jr. He he actually almost wiggles himself to that spot
A little bit.
and somehow the ball does not clip the side of the backboard and goes in. And if you've seen some of the fan angles from that, just go on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and you're going to see him because it is stunning when a guy hits shots like that. But he also set up his teammates late too, Paris.
Set up his teammates. Lou Dort had a massive corner three in that fourth quarter as well. I'm pretty sure he had the assist to Chet Holmgren that gave the Thunder a 3-point lead. And so you look at the stats and you'll see Shea finished with 34 points, but he also had 8 rebounds. He had 5 assists in this game, and a lot of those assists coming in the fourth quarter. And talking to Coach, 4 of them, and talking to Coach Dagnall post game, he said Shea had a nice blend offensively, and that's something we've heard throughout the season. But what does Coach Dagnall mean specifically when he's talking about the blend that Shea had on that end of the floor?
It's an understanding of just taking what the defense is giving and keeping the defense on their toes also, so that he's manufacturing some different looks for his teammates and himself as well. So, we saw Shea get down to the baseline. We know he's so comfortable at the baseline. We saw him get to the nail and the elbow. We saw some high post-ups that really had me having flashbacks to like 2012 of, just teams, running that pin down screen for key playmakers and trying to get them to catch that ball at the nail or at the elbow. But that was really an effective play because the Thunder would get a switch and get Shea able to isolate one-on-one. And he could kind of go to work from there. He was able to create some stuff, not just for himself, but for his teammates out of some of those actions too. And then, of course, when the Thunder was able to get out and push a little bit of tempo, we saw the trail jump shot from Chet Holmgren. Yeah. That was manufactured by Shea just pushing pace and there being a bit of a broken floor.
And Shea, obviously, being able to get downhill, just wiggle his way, create, use that gravity that he has to suck in the defense and just facilitate. J-Dub had a couple of big buckets late as well. Talking about the offensive side of the floor, we also have to talk about the individual performances on the defensive end. Yeah. We mentioned Cason Wallace and his awesome effort, blocking the shot of Kyrie Irving. We also got to talk about Lou, because this man has been a menace defensively. Yep. And this is where the endurance comes in for a guy like Lou Dort. Coach Dagnall calls him a punching bag. Now, for some, that could be kind of insulting. If somebody called me a punching bag, I'd be like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Rude.
Don't do that to me.
Excuse me. But it's a massive compliment to Lou Dort, a guy who is going up against the most elite players in the NBA every single night, and recognizing that when you do that, you're going to take some licks. You're going to take some punches. Guys are going to make shots in your face. They're going to make unbelievable shots over your incredible defense. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened in this game. Yeah, Luka got free for a couple. Kyrie got free for a couple. But they did not get in a rhythm throughout this entire game. And Lou, even if he picked up a couple of fouls, got frustrated with some of the calls, he still just delivered, brought it every single possession. And that is exhausting for someone just trying to go out there and score.
Yeah, Doncic and Irving combined to shoot 10 of 31 in the game. Doncic 6 of 20 from the field. And so to use this punching bag metaphor, these players that Lou has to guard every night, guys like Doncic, guys like Brandon Ingram in the first round, these are heavyweight boxers.
Yep.
But you know what? Even after their training sessions, those boxers, at the end of the day, the punching bag is still standing in that gym.
That's
and,
right.
and the boxer is the one leaving and going home because he's worn out.
Yep.
And that is Lou Dort to a T. He is going to sit in there and he's going to take it, and he's going to be the last one on the floor with energy and the last one on the floor who's able to absorb even more punches after the boxer is done.
And then go and knock down a couple of key threes on the other end of the floor. This was just like an awesome Lou Dort game. And we got a chance to talk to him on the post-game show. If you're not watching that, by the way, you're missing out on some exclusive content. We got a chance to talk to Lou, me and Royce Young, and he just talked about the trust that he had in his teammates, talked about the trust that his teammates have in him to be able to be in those moments, not just offensively, but especially defensively as well. His teammates know we've got an ace up our sleeve when Lou Dort is out there. And I just thought that was so cool to hear from Lou. He doesn't want to talk about himself at all. It's all about the team, and it's all about the trust that this team has in each other.
Even in my walk-off with him, I'm like teeing him up on the defense, and he's pointing at J. Will as the person that I should be talking to about defense. And J. Will was great. He was ferocious on the glass and defensively. But, I mean, Lou, you just spent 40 minutes chasing, the number 3 MVP from this year and doing it to great degree. I mean, just incredible humility from a guy like Lou Dort. And you mentioned the shot making late. He also perfect 6 for 6 from the free throw line.
That's right.
That's hard to do when you're trying to be a blanket on somebody up and down the floor all night. And the Thunder, that was a big story in this game. 23 out of 24 from the free throw line, hit some massive ones late. Chet helped seal it as well as Shea at the line.
Yeah, the team said, look, we needed everything tonight. We needed those 2 3-pointers from Case and Wallace. We needed those 23 free throws that we made out of 24.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Dallas, only 12 of 23 from the free throw line on the other end. And so that was a way that the Thunder was able to capitalize on a few miscues by the Dallas Mavericks to edge out a 4-point victory. One last thing I want to talk about this game, and it's something that got brought up a lot every time. It was, the questions were just, you were playing uphill the entire night. How do you do it? Basically, that is the crux of basically every question. And the biggest word that came out of it was trust. It was endurance, mental toughness, perseverance, but really trust. Not just in each other, but trust in the game plan, because there weren't many drastic changes throughout this game. Coach Dagnall threw Kenrich Williams out there. That was a little bit of a wrinkle.
It was a big jolt also.
Big jolt, great minutes by Kenrich, great energy, great confidence, and great defense.
You can see the rest of the guys stand up a little taller.
Yeah. Shoulders go back a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so great minutes from Kenrich. But other than that, there weren't many massive wrinkles to the Thunder's game plan. And so it was really a good kind of example of the trust that this group has and what they're doing out there on the floor, and just sticking with it.
Yeah, and that's what Kenrich told us today in practice, that they went into the locker room at halftime, they were down double digits, and he said that all of them told each other, like, just keep trusting it, just keep hanging in there. And what's been so cool about this build and the continuity that's existed over the last few years as this team has built together is they have so many of these shared experiences that it's not just platitudes to say trust it. The past 2 years, this team has 34 double-digit comeback victories in the regular season. 17 this year, 17 last year. That's the most in the NBA during that span. And so it's just logical. It's within them that they understand, hey, we know that if we're down double figures, that's not that big of a deal. We've done that a number of times before.
More than any team in the NBA.
Yeah, and they were also excellent in clutch time games this year. I mean, I think one of the better records in the clutch, 24-14, yet again had another one of those situations. And just because it didn't go their way in clutch time on Saturday afternoon, they knew that they could turn around on Monday and get it done when they needed to a couple nights later.
And it's just so impressive to see so many guys not overreact. So many young guys not overreact to, oh my gosh, we lost 2 games in the playoffs. Oh my gosh, we're on the road and the crowd we're down. I'm down 11 points and PJ Washington just hit another 3. It's so easy to just want to overreact, overcorrect. But this young group and Coach Dagnall, all season long we've seen this, even-keeled, steady, just be where your feet are and have the perspective that this is a long series. This is a long game. And this is the same game that we've played in time and time again. The context is different. Yes, the stakes are higher, but it's the same game and the same premise. We just have to trust what's allowed us to be successful.
Yeah, they, even as one of the youngest teams ever, the youngest team ever to get a number 1 seed, they've been trying to tell you they're an uncommon team.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's one of my favorite quotes from this group. We want to have uncommon maturity, be an uncommon team.
Yep.
And now, this uncommon team bringing the party back to Oklahoma City.
Here, in this building.
Back inside of Paycom Center. I am so excited. I am so excited to see this Thunder crowd show up and show out. We talked to Kenrich Williams today at practice, and he was like, man, I'm so ready. So ready.
He said the crowd at the airport actually made him like ready, even more ready for the game. So keep that up, y'all, because he was like, ready to just go drive straight here last night when we got in and was ready to like suit it up and get it rocking.
Let's run it back. We're ready now. Yeah. All right, so let's get you all ready for what's on the horizon for the Thunder. Obviously, Game 5 back inside of Paycom Center. That game is Wednesday, tomorrow. We're recording this on Tuesday, May 14th, and that game is tomorrow. That's going to be another 8:30 p.m. Central Time start. One thing we've learned since this postseason has begun with all these late starts, get your coffee at 4 or 5 p.m. just so it kicks in right as you're getting to the arena and you're ready to just be loud and rowdy throughout that entire game. That game's going to be on TNT if you're not able to make it down to Paycom Center. Then game 6, which is happening now because this series is all tied up 2-2. That's going to be back out in Dallas at American Airlines Center. That's going to be at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, and that game will be on ESPN. So we are in it for at least a couple more games, Nick Gallo. This is turning out to be a really, really exciting series.
Yeah, just incredible. And, you think about, what the perception of the series might be heading into it, and nobody knows exactly what to expect. But two just monster teams going up against each other. The West has been so competitive all year long. Yeah. And so not surprising that this was going at least 6. And if there's a game 7, of course, it's back here in OKC on Monday the 20th. That also going to be a 7:30 tip-off and will be on TNT if that game is necessary.
So be sure to stay locked in, be watching those games, and then come back to the Thunder Basketball Universe podcast. Be sure you're locked in on OKCThunder.com. Nick Gallo's got some awesome articles just keeping you up to date with all of the ins and outs and things that we're hearing out in the practice facility as well. But that wraps us up here on the Thunder Basketball Universe here today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. And until next time, Thunder up and catch you later.